Well, hello there, everybody. How are y'all? It is Wednesday, and well, at least in this part of the universe. So, far out. Oh man, I tell you, it has been a fabulous morning thus far, and I trust you're having a good one. Thank you for being here, and let me say right from the get-go, let me just speak favor over us all as I get the bus. It's been warmed up. I mean, don't worry about that. So, hope you're on. Find your favorite seat. Bean bags, they're welcome. Got the lazy boys, got the walking desk. Yeah, those are pretty cool to have, by the way. So let me just speak favor over us all. Nothing missing, nothing broken, because you can always use favor. So hello, chat room. Hello, Lauren. How are you doing? Go, all the way from Croatia. I haven't seen you a little bit. Marion, how are you? Felix, good to see you. Carol, how are you as well? Max, what's up, brother? Loretta, good to see you. And there's Michelle. She says, even. Big hug, everybody. Got my duck puppy shirt on. I had someone ask me, what does that mean? I said that nature will always throw us a curveball. Oh, I never heard of a duck puppy. So that's all right. Neither the rest of us. So anyway, as I go back, Gaia, how are you? You and Paul. And I know that they're going to shout out to Mike and Cindy. We'll be on tomorrow together over there at Evolutionary Healing Arts. So that's going to be fun. Kind of tied in together on this. So, Brian, good to see you. Mastermind, magnetic pole flip. You got it, brother. There is so much happening. I know that, you know, there are other channels that, say, well, we know about these things. They need to tell the rest of the world, right? Or the rest of the world isn't listening because something's happening. Deborah, how's everyone at home? Good to see you. And Jim, that. Witch Moon, how are you? Favor be to you. Chloe, how are you as well, my dear? Let's see. Blazing River, much love to your brother. And as I go down here, Peter, what's up these days? Haven't seen you in a while. Maybe I just wasn't looking. Max says, I dust my rice and dry my beans. Ah, cool. Yeah. Colleen, interesting little piece that you sent me today. Yeah. Gilbert, how are you, brother? Speaking favor over you. Rick, trust all is well. As we get ready and as I go out and start, Nina, good to see you, dear. So I think I got everybody. If I haven't, I'm thinking of you. Truth Co-op, good to see you as well. Bonnie, Mary Wins, love one. So, going to get right to this because this is one of those things that's happening. I mean, it's no conspiracy theory. It's no, speculation. It's actually happening. So this all started by Catherine. I don't know if you know Miss Catherine Austin Fitz, but I knew her from back in the day when she brought out some really good information on birth certificates. I didn't like that. And the fact that she worked back in the Reagan administration, gives her much credibility. I've had my opportunity and pleasure to meet a number of people that was with Ronald Reagan. Good guy. But as the hippies used to think back in the 60s, he wasn't such a nice guy at all. Actor turned governor turned president. Mm-mm-mm. Makes one think. So, um, the story goes that Catherine was on Tucker Carlson and she made the announcement. This is thetruthpress.com. And as the title says, U.S. has built $21 trillion underground city for only wealthy to hide out in the near extinction event. So there is an extinction event apparently that is known. I remember way back in the days when I was heavily into politics, but we were having brandy, late at night and sharing war stories. And it was said that President Reagan was informed um, of this event. So they've known about it for at least 50 years. And it was said that he asked this particular general, can we save the population, United States? I don't know about the rest of the world. And it was said, no, we don't have the technology. We don't have the money. You know, so it sucks to be them. Now, it is said that there have been plans all along. At first, it was the nuclear thing, and then something shifted, and then there was this lull, and then all of a sudden there was this big effort. So, if the United States has spent $21 trillion, they stole it from the taxpayers. These elites, they don't own these facilities. The military doesn't own them unless we're just slaves. They don't give a damn about us as long as we pay the taxes, pay their tolls, pay their tariffs. They'll leave you alone to a degree. But you're just a freaking slave. No matter what your degree, no matter how worthy you've lived a life of, being good to mankind, they don't give a shit about that. You are nothing. As long as you pay the tax, pay the toll, pay the tariff, fine. But you ain't getting into those luxury bunkers. You're not getting into the apparently over 170 of these cities, of which, by the way, it is estimated that there is well over a couple of million people, Americans, I guess, already living in them. So she goes on Tucker Carlson and makes this. I have no doubt she'll be on Joe Rogan. And I'll just read this. So, a former housing official recently made a shocking allegation that, if true, will prove the most wasteful and arguably sinister government expenditure of all. Elon Musk, where are you? Why don't you have Doge go in and audit the Pentagon? When's that going to take place? Because there's some shady kickbacks going on in the Pentagon. Well, in fact, we know now every agency out there is into the kickback program, making deals. But what the real deal is if you get the golden ticket. So Catherine Austin Fitts, who served as Assistant Secretary of Housing and Urban Development for housing between 1989 and 1990, appeared on former Fox News host Tucker Carlson's podcast last Tuesday to acclaim that the United States government has spent a whopping $21 trillion over several years building an underground city for the wealthiest and most powerful in the country. There's one way that you tear down these powerful people. You storm their places of power. That's what the people have always done, because they've always screwed us. Anyway, she said that to help back up her allegation, the 74-year-old Fitts cited a report released by Michigan State University economist Mark Skidmore. The economist and their team said in their paper that they had uncovered $21 trillion in unauthorized spending. So where's Doge on this? Do you feel like sometimes that when you're dealing with these politicians, you're in a 3-card Monte game on the corner of Times Square? You're about to get hosed. You ain't winning because it's stacked against you. So, Mr. President, where's your announcement on this? Why don't you come clean? Because if we find out that this is true, y'all going to have hell to pay. You think you're going to be allowed in? We might just be there at those gates. Just saying. The article goes on to say, we have built an extraordinary number of underground bases and supposedly transportation systems. Fitz told Tucker that money was used to develop an underground-based city infrastructure transportation system. Some of these are documented as part of the national security infrastructure, but I think there are many more in the United States and all over the world. I went back and 7 years ago, I did this whole podcast on these underground highways. Brought you a trucker that was saying, they told exactly what happened, how you get into it. This entrance is right outside New York and New Jersey, and he came out in someplace in Nebraska, and he was underground the whole time. They have restaurants down there, they have fueling, the whole bit. Yeah, we don't have the credentials. Um, mm, But she says I think there are many more in the United States and all over the world. One thing I like you have to say about Russia, I mean, they in Moscow, they're very proud of this. They have built the underground facilities that they can literally bring every person in Moscow, St. Peter's the same way, under into these underground facilities. The United States can't. There was a time when we used to have the fallout shelters. Remember that? That ain't happening anymore. Yeah. Um, she says we systematically went through and tried to guesstimate our guess on how many underground bases there are, both underground in the United States, but also underground under the ocean around the United States. Wow. So I wonder if those USOs that they see, those underwater submersible objects. Hmm. Elon, do you know anything about this? Love to find out if Doge can find this money. I mean, you found the 14 Magick money machines. I want one of those machines. Um, Tucker then inquired about the purpose of connecting these bases to a transportation network, which was when Fitz dropped the bombshell. The purpose is if you thought you were going to get a near extinction event, you have so many activities going on that you need to keep secrets. Okay. Fitz told Tucker that money could also be used to develop an underground-based city infrastructure and transportation system hidden from the entire country. She added one example would be the government building a secret space program. Tucker said he knew a contractor who worked on one of these bases, and that person shared some interesting information with him. He said, I knew a contractor who worked on one of the city of Washington, D.C., and I remember him telling me about a power box, like a transformer box on Constitution Avenue. He told me that was actually the exit, the egress from the White House. Yeah, they got that whole thing dug under there. And I thought that's kind of crazy in the middle of this big city where I live that you could build something like that without me knowing it. Right there in front of us. So, there we go. But it doesn't end there. It continues. So, I put this together just so we could have a little bit of discussion because apparently no matter how you slice it and dice it with a Slice-O-Matic 5000 with the additional blades, something's going to happen. Shit's coming down. And those who are in power, they're doing everything they can. Listen, Zuckerberg's been open about it. He ain't lying to anybody. He said, yeah, I'm building my own. Now, I often wonder with these elites, are they building these and is there going to be a connecting tunnel? You know, I mean, you've got your own. Look at what Jeff Bezos is doing out there in West Texas. He's causing the seismic monitors to go off. He's been blowing shit up inside that mountain for years. What the hell is he building there? Is it just convenient that there's a spaceport not too far from the? I don't know. Elon? I mean, they all have them. You can go on today and to Remax, any of the real estate listings, and put in luxurious bomb shelters, survival shelters. And yeah, you can pick up a silo out there in the middle of America. You got $4 or $5 million. You can rehab that sucker and have yourself a facility. Um, so it's real. Okay. So if it's real, that means death is coming. And I often wonder, is it really smart to go underground? We may be screwed up here on top, but you folks are just digging your grave, is the way I kind of look at it. Because if this cataclysm happens, I mean, a whole lot of stuff's going to be rocking and rolling. You know what I'm talking about? Not just on the surface, but underneath the surface. And you may think you've got these things so supported and structured in the way that you built them that they can take an earthquake. Maybe. But what happens if the magma starts really just coming up through all the cracks? Have you planned on that? Just saying. So let's check this out. Because you know what I like to do? I like PowerPoint because it just communicates. So, question everybody. Is there an extinction level event, that's an ELE, about to happen? Well, we've had Hollywood, you know, Deep Impact, Armageddon. I mean, Hollywood is the prophet of the modern era. You don't have to go to some religious thing or here. No, if you want to know where the living prophets live, just see what they're producing. They're prophesying this shit. The thing it is, we make this happen, but maybe, just maybe, you know, we ain't the only people occupying the surface or even underground. Maybe there's another species here that they can mimic you and I. They've been through these things before. And if Homo sapiens sapiens is a mistake genetically, they got to wipe it out. That's why all the Abrahamic religions, you know, that's all it's about is wiping out the mistake. So they know, they've seen this before, and the scientists are ready. The sociologists have got their front chair, and they want to see how us humans are going to react to this. So the next question then becomes, how many have known about this, and for how long have they known? I don't know about you, but it seems like if there is any politician that's known that, that makes them a traitor to humanity. Let's just say if someone else knew about this and all they did was to protect their own ass. Hmm. I mean, is there a charge that we could charge them with against humanity? You knew that this event was coming, yet you said nothing. A lot of blood on your hands. Don't know how you're going over the other side when your soul is soaked in the blood of how many people perishing, suffering? That's a karmatic debt that you don't get over in one cycle. I doubt if you get over that in a dozen cycles. So it would seem they have known for a long time enough to build complex cities to house millions of people. When I lived in Colorado, in Highlands Ranch, um, I've got all my equipment. In fact, I got my SLS camera. I'm going to be doing some spirit work. But so I was out in the backyard filming like I used to do quite a bit. Um, now I do a show every day. And I picked up the most interesting EVP. Sounded like hell. But I had an engineer tell me, he says, when you're tunneling through rock, it can give the sound like someone being tormented, tortured. So did I just happen to pick up because of maybe the Schumann resonance was a little high, or maybe it was focused where I was at, or did I actually pick up on something more of an EVP type? And if you want to know which one I'm talking about, go in. It's listed in my favorites. So, all right. So, speaking of Denver, Steiger, you just pressed my ass. So, back in the day when and I believe they've taken these down now. Um, but, I traveled so much at a time through DI, I swear I should have bought a suite there. Um, I paid enough tollways on C470, if you know what I mean. So these were commissioned paintings. And as you can see, this is one of them that are really talked about for telling us. When I was in the ministry, I was taught that, they can't do anything unless they tell us first. And this hung for millions and millions of people. I remember walking by it. Don't y'all, those of you who've gone through DA, you're on the first level, and you get back over the back near the where the international travelers arrive. And this has just always been one that was, I remember staring at this thing because it's a freaky thing. I mean, what is it saying? There's a lot of that. But so, warning, how about this one? This one was right next to the one that we saw: destruction, death, um, sadness. I mean, you can see it represented. So, everybody has their own interpretation. Let me know what yours are, because that is some wild stuff, man. I mean, I always got the creeps, it had negative energy. Maybe it's just me. But so many times, walking, heading to security, you walked right by this thing and it just sucked. Yeah. Negative energy, big time. So 21 trillion freaking dollars. And I just got to say that if Catherine thinks it's 21 trillion, I just have to say, knowing the government, knowing the way those shysters work, it may be double that. A lot of money. I mean, this is the type of money you have to hide. And so, in the Pentagon, to their contractors, they'll pay $4,000 for a wooden toilet seat, something to flop your ass on, Because everybody needs, $90,000, $100,000 toilet seats. Yeah. So there's Catherine. And as you can see, it's now everywhere. So, anyone want to take a bet? How long do we wait until Trump makes something about this? Or who's going to ask Elon now that Tucker Carlson, because Tucker and Elon apparently are close friends. So, Elon, if you're listening to this, thank you. Love your ideas, visionary. But, sir, can you address this? Are you a part of this conspiracy? Or are you going to become the puppet answering to the puppet master? I mean, you're the richest guy on the planet. So could you give us just a little bit here, a little bit of truth? Hmm. And then you've got this other thing that there is a whole race of human beings that are underground. They've never come to the top. They went down in the last extinction event, the last cycle, the last reset, however you want to define it, and they never came back up. Said, hell no, we ain't going back up. The people are crazy up there. So in Ellie is coming. Where's that Three Dog Night? Eli's coming. Oh, and so this struck me as I was putting this together. I said, remember September 10th, 2001? That's the day Rumsfeld came out on the Pentagon steps and said, um, we don't know exactly where it went. We just can't account for it. It may have been stolen, but $9 trillion from the Pentagon. I think the new Secretary of Defense said that this number is now, I think, like 20 something trillion that the Pentagon. And the one that I want to know is where the hell did they get all this money? Where does Congress get all this money? I mean, they're taxing the crap out of us. I get that, but still. Um, so these are the potential scenarios. One, the sun goes nova. All right. Depending on your point of view, the information you have, that what resonates with you. It is said that our sun is on a cycle as well, that it does go nova on these cycles, and that we are now right there. We've crossed the doorway, the threshold, and the likelihood of the sun going nova on us, and it could be a micronova, maybe a bigger one. But if that does, bad day on Earth, right? You best be underground because you don't want to be on top. All right. So that's the first thing. Then, how long will it be? As I said to the ladies yesterday, enjoyed that show yesterday, Miss Trina and Miss Jenny. This is happening. And at some point in time, they will no longer be able to hide it. It will become mainstream. It will hit TikTok. And once it hits TikTok, then they'll have to come clean. Is this the Ellie that they're preparing for? Is this has been known for what, 50, 60, 70 years? Did they know from ancient manuscripts that this has happened before, and it was predicted by those who lived through it the last time that it's going to happen again? Apparently, the stars themselves have predicted this. We in Earth are now amongst our other brothers and sisters in the solar system. Every planet and our sun is being impacted by this galactic wave. It's here. We're in the midst of the densest dust cloud, and suns don't do well with dust. And so, thus, the nova idea written about. Now we're talking about the magnetic pole reversal, because here is something, that's why YouTube doesn't, put the little blue box up, because they know that scientifically this is true. That North Magnetic Pole is moving and moving quick to Russia. And the South Magnetic Pole is no longer even on Antarctica. I contend, and it's just my hypothesis, that this is why the weather is going to really freak out. I believe weather patterns are more controlled and managed by electromagnetism than the jet stream. All right, so this is a big deal. So if you know that this is coming, and if you knew it was like in the next 50 to 100 years, yeah, okay. And then I was just reading recently, so you think about this. So the sun goes nova, the Earth's magnetic poles flip, we are defenseless, we don't have a magnetic shield anymore, and then the Nibiru story comes in. Now we're talking Planet X type shit, and now that thing is now taking, let's just say hypothetically, it just happens to shoot a couple of big rocks at us. And everything I've talked about is, I can go right into the book of Revelation on much of this. It's like, really? So how did those time travelers know that? But just saying. So no matter if number three happens or not, number two and number one is certainly going to impact the oceans. Now, it is said that the way that the continents are assembled now, that when you start getting the bathtub effect, our oceans can, well, they don't know where their bounds are anymore, and they can go out of bounds, and thus the story of Noah's flood, yada yada yada. These have happened before. It was never no God, and if a God caused this, then it is homicidal. It is crazy. But Earth, she's got a lot of water, and it starts splashing. Then now one, two, maybe not three, but four, and now five. Supervolcanoes begin to erupt. And I'm sure that they know this shit. Well, we know they do. The Adam and Eve story by Chan Thomas. That is exactly what he's talking about, is a magnetic pole flip. And all of this starts happening. And my thing is, again, if you're building all these underground cities, assholes, and you think that you're getting away with it, you're going to live a long life, um, you may have underestimated nature. She's a bitch. She's pissed off. You guys have pissed her off. So, getting back to these super volcano eruptions. So, what if every freaking crevice and hole in the very top mantle of the planet is suddenly filled with molten magma? That ain't going to suck. All you people in those cities, you can't get out of the exits fast enough before your ass is fried, boiled, and put the dust. Well, actually, it probably is. I guess it, but just saying. So I'm thinking about this and I'm going, well, no matter, it's like being in an intersection and it's a four-way stop. But here's the problem. When you get to the stop sign, you see the opposing stop sign has a one-way street because you're on a one-way street. And then to your right, it's a one-way street and it has a stop sign, and to the left. Kind of boxed in, aren't you? So the earth becomes inhabitable. Uninhabitable. Some places it's bad news, man. I mean, it's drought, it's got lava fields. I mean, it's just freaking bad news. And the other part is frozen like a snow cone. And there ain't no in between. I mean, the planet is still upheaval for all this. But you've got underground cities. Um, this is one such entrance. So humans go underground, start building these cities. Hollywood said this for a long time. But now we know it's not just hypothetical, it's really happening, and there's people living there. Obviously, you and I don't qualify because we're still here. And you often wonder, what does it do to the psyche of a person who's now living underground? And I guess if the theory goes that you're already living there, do you adapt to that? Because they wiped you out up here. You got no identity anymore. And the one thing that we do know, that if you enter into one of these cities, you've really entered into a digital prison camp. There's no privacy. You sign that away. And I can't help but think that if you've signed your privacy away to another group of people who think that they're masters or they're above everybody else because the rules don't apply to, this is where the dystopian thing gets into it. And we know that this is happening already. This is, by the way, THX 1138, 1970, 71. How did Lucas see the future? And then he went on to Star Wars. I mean, come on. And Zuckerberg he's not bashful about it. It's where he's going. He's making the plans. If they can't get off Earth, and that's the problem. Elon, if the thing I get about Elon is that he really does believe this, that Earth is about to be in an Ellie event. And so you look at these individuals' net worth, what they control, the influence they have. Money is not an option, not an object, because you're going to have to, upgrade to Windows 11. You're going to want to be able to have the more enhanced experience with Facebook and et cetera, et cetera. I can only imagine what they're building, what they have already put into it. And normal people would not do this unless they know something. It's not YouTube bullshit. It's not the fear porn nonsense. No, they know. They let all the rest of us up here try to fight it out, figure it out. They don't care anymore. They know. And they're making their plans in order to live their lives out where they believe they're going to be safe. And we get pictures. We don't get much more, but we do get the pictures. This is exactly one of the concepts of one of these silos now. There are developers who have actually developed these into communal housing, bunkers. I don't know what the hell you want to call it. It ain't up above ground. And, blast proof doors. I mean, yeah, you can have one too. I think that you could get in probably a little bit less than maybe $1 million, but you're going to be on the poor side of town. Really to do this right, you probably need about 100 million. Yeah. That's it. That's to have all the amenities, that can be afforded. Colleen brought this out, and it's so true. So you know what now is the number one commodity that's being sought after? Now, Colleen, I know you're there. You can't see the chat, but you can't say anything. How many, and I'll look where I'm going to be when I get there to see what y'all said. But it's water. China, because of Bill Clinton, is continuing to drain the Great Lakes. Why aren't you stopping that, Mr. Trump? Why are we continually draining one of the largest repositories of fresh water besides Antarctica, I guess? Maybe the Buford Gyre, I don't know. No, 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 they wouldn't be nothing like that. Fresh water. And there's rich enough people that it's interesting. I've heard stories of them tapping in to aquifers, and then people on the surface can't quite figure out why the aquifers have fallen so much. Well, it's because you got these rich elites, and don't doubt that these politicians, you notice that how many are retiring now? They know. They know no matter who is elected behind them, they're screwed. And so they're getting out of town now. And I'll guarantee you, virtually every one of these assholes, particularly those that have been in there 20 years or more, they've got their ticket. Just saying. These are some of the concepts. And if the architects have taken time to draw architectural renderings, that tells me that someone's gone beyond the feasibility stage. This is all the identified tunnels um, across the United States. This is the dump tunnels, deep underground military bases. And this has even been enhanced even more. And again, you can see it going East Coast, West Coast. The West Coast tunnel is one main line. I understand that they're trying to connect up here. So the other thing I find so interesting, what the hell's up here in New Mexico? Don't know. But this has been ongoing. I have heard and read that the tunnels are not new. Eisenhower, when he devised the interstate system, it was not designed for civilian use, but it was always designed for military use. Speaking of New Mexico, so you had Delucy Base right there. This is where the underground aliens, if you remember Phil Snyder, his encounter of, I just recently saw a new documentary on Phil Snyder, and the fact that this is probably one of the more, what I would call legitimate exchanges with the lizard people, the ones that live underground. These reptilians, whoever the hell they are, it is by the it's it's more than just a couple. I heard that they have a complete civilization underneath there, and this is one of the natural entrance points. But there we go. Um, so you remember that. Now you look at that and you go, well, what the hell's going on? Another theory is that there's a group that are helping us. They have the technology to build these tunnels in such a manner that even with our modern machinery, we can't quite match. This is another one. This is from Majestic 12. Um, the tunnels, particularly in the western United States. And this one here has the legend map to it. Yeah, something going on. And of course, you got Denver, Colorado Springs. Um, yeah, which I have no doubt. Again, this is an updated one that I found. And it's interesting because these are, from what I hear, and I know that there are a number of videos on this, but they have technology now that they can move underground at incredible speeds. They actually use magnetism to move these tubes through, and they're traveling at incredible speeds. And isn't it odd that that's exactly what Elon wanted to do out in California until Newsom and the rest of the California state legislator who live perpetually with their heads and their craniums up their anuses. But anyway, now he moved to Texas, and where Texas was off of the grid, kind of speaking, now all of a sudden you see these secondary routes. Lee, that's right there in North Carolina in Research Triangle Park, which doesn't. What's right there? Lots of pharmaceuticals. Then we're up here in New Jersey. Um, Again, this is, I have heard that this is one of the major entry points into this. So, again, talked about Denver. I mean, another map from another source. So, I find it interesting here in West Texas. And so, where's Jeff Bezos? Just saying. And you can see that these tunnels now extend all the way down to Mexico City. So what the hell's going on? Something. When they begin to rebuild, they're going to need a new Capitol building, but the idea has already been constructed, or an artist's rendition of what the new Capitol of the United States will look like. And what you see here is a consolidation of the continuity of government. Yeah. Got the Congress, Supreme Court, White House, all the other government agencies. Isn't that weird? And again, if it tells me that they're into this thing with concept ideas, I'll guarantee you someone has footed the bill, millions of dollars, no doubt, in developing a concept plan. Yeah. And then I just have to say, well, what if they wanted to do a proof of concept? Hmm. Yeah. This is another idea of how you can begin to build these. I think this is Scandinavia, I believe. Their idea is pretty unique, is that each house would, in essence, be built to where, in the event of cataclysm, you can go down into your own domicile. And I guess eventually you probably want to get these connected, but you know, down in Australia, down there in Opal country, where it gets hotter than hell, um, I've seen the cities down there. By the way, I love opals. They're just, if you see where they get those opals from, you really appreciate what those miners are doing. But anyway, I digress. So this is the future, because they're not going to allow us to be policemen, to police ourselves. Musk has probably already got the patent, I'm sure, with his new cyborg. And it will come equipped with a new god. Don't worry about that. You can leave your old god on the surface because his sorry ass didn't save you. So you know, you're going to go with the new god. And all we can say is good luck to all of you who are down there. We salute you. There you go. That is my little presentation of how I see this potentially going down. Yeah. With a little humor thrown in, because it's serious that you've got people that, let's call them the Titans, right? Trump is a modern day demagogue. But the thing about it is, folks, there are many demagogues walking around. In fact, Colleen, wasn't it interesting? In fact, I'm going to show that picture of the guy that has, let's see, let me pull this up. Yeah, Colleen, because this was really freaky. So let me get back over here. So this is the guy that's taking over Klaus Schwab's position. Peter, what is his name? Brabeck. Yeah. So check this out. Folks, we're not alone. Not even close. And Colleen, much love to you, darling. Love your research, hon. Um, so check that out. Colleen, what we ought to do is compile a whole presentation of all these leaders in corporate, politics, etc., that have this. He's not alone. It's the weird eye. Mm-hmm. Something going on. That's all I know. Again, thanks, Colleen. It just and what's this guy's whole deal? I'll tell you what his whole deal is. It's about fresh water. He's been with the Nestle Corporation. Water. And they're talking about, how can I say this? The elites are already looking at, they own the water, and now they're determining how, and it's not that far ahead of us, who will be getting the water. We're now finding out that these companies with bottled water that they put the plastic in, we're now finding particularly every human being has about a credit card's worth of plastic, microplastics in their bodies. Now, I can only imagine what that does to living organisms. And now this guy is going to be heading up the World Economic Forum. There's nothing to see here. Move your ass along. Uh, Steven says, pink eye. Skies Above says, go watch the TV show Fringe. Now, that's truth in plain sight. Yeah, that's what I've heard. Craig says, love you. Thank you. Whatever happened to the Christian whistleblower guy? I believe Jeffrey is still, I think he's on Rumble, isn't he? I think so. He's still out there. Speak in favor. Guy says Prime Water. Yeah. Saul, how are you doing? How can I send you a picture? I leave my email all the time in the description box, and it is Steiger R. Wayne at gmail.com. Love to see it. Brian says, I doubt Trump or even Elon are going to save us. We are, yeah, yeah. I'm sorry. There may be a golden age, but I got a sense you're going to have to get over this little bump in the road, like an extinction level event. I don't know. I mean, because I don't want to talk about this. If this gets out, it gets people down. And when people become depressed, they don't spend money, they're not, glee, they're not happy. And the whole idea is to keep you happy, to keep those endorphins dumping into your cerebral cortex. Yeah. Um, Gaddafi was going to green North Africa. You see what they did to him, didn't we? I mean, yeah. Tell me compassion, my ass. I mean, sheesh. Didn't they target a missile at him or something? I mean, wow. Uh, but we got a little bit of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Let's do the little bit of time, Red. Rick, you got it, brother. Uh, uh, yeah, yeah. I mean, so it's something's up. They, what? I have a few ideas on that. So, in ever the chance, and we look at this. So, the next big thing is, and apparently it's already in motion. This is Earth Epochs, really good document. But so the last real big axis tilt, the flood event happened worldwide. That's when you had creatures that were flash frozen. I mean, yeah. So apparently, 3,450 years ago, the Earth began to have what they called a partial tilt of its axis, causing a change in the Earth's perpendicular axis of spin to an actual tilt of 23.5 degrees. That's changing, folks. Most of the evidence in this chapter that supports that statement centers in the Atlantic Rim. In certain areas and regions of the Earth, the event is referred to as the long day. Now, I've known about this because you can go to Joshua. I think it's the 12th chapter, right in somewhere in there. That's when supposedly God held the sun still, which allowed the children of Israel to defeat the Palestinians, the Philistines, yada, yada, yada. But what was odd about that is that that event was recorded all over the world. And what we found out, it really wasn't any God had anything to do with it. It is a natural, cyclical thing that planets do, even suns. And that is, we wobble, we top, and if you're like this, and all of a sudden you've got that pole shift that sits you like that, things are going to happen. Well, it did happen. And this account was written particularly in Eastern Mediterranean, while in other regions it is called the long evening. We have from the Mesoamerican cultures in Central America, they reported that there was a double sunrise. And that'd be kind of cool. So it tilts. Going to happen. Um, as would be expected if a partial tilt of the Earth on its axis. For clarity, in this chapter, he says we will refer to the event as the axis tilt event. So, my point to all this is it happened, and it happened about 6,000 years ago, which, according to those who know better than I do, that's right on time. And this was a minor one. We're in for the big show, apparently. That's what they say. It goes on to talk what happened when this axis tilt event occurred. And folks, when it happened, it was like that. It took it a while to get to that point, but then it hit a trigger point, and whoop, there it went. And we have well, look at the bronze books. A lot of ancient manuscripts talk about this event. And here's the one that I was telling you about. Several of the things. So imagine a group of people, nomads, that are moving through the Middle East. They've been in supposed captivity for 490 years. And by the way, if you have been in captivity, supposedly, slaves, and exposed to a culture for 490 years, chances are there's going to be very few of the originals left. But anyway, picture, if you will, a group of people, humans, that are moving through arid regions, heading like a compass spinning to a point where they say that an entity said, this is going to be your homeland. Well, isn't it convenient that the entity just happened to understand planets, how they work, magnetic fields, etc., etc.? And if you're going to have to get rid of a lot of people, just have a natural disaster. My hands. And it says the most well-known description of the event comes from the biblical records, particularly Joshua, which describes in some detail the fall of the walls of Jericho, earthquake, troops slain by a hail of stones, and the sun standing still in its path, a tilting of the earth's axis of rotation. Can you imagine what it's going to do to us? And it's worldwide. There is no safety zone. Oh wow, where did the time go? I just love these topics. So anyway, it's a great read. It talks about how this is going to work, and particularly what we know from the evidence that it was written about by, you know, sacred writings, texts. And so you can only imagine, folks, and it doesn't take much. I've had some people think it's going to do this. No, 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 I don't think it's going to be, it's not going to be, overall like, seeing Neptune, but ever less. So get ready. That's what they seem to know. And I had another one because tomorrow we're going to be talking with Mike and Cindy and talking about this digital concentration camp. There's something more to this, why there's such a push to get us so interfaced into the machine. Um, and the evidence for this axis tilt is everywhere. I don't have enough time to go through it, but this is a great document, by the way. They've got great graphs, and it can show you what happens when this event is going to take place. It's going to be quite interesting. I mean, we read about the Egyptians, and I can't help but not think that what we were discussing yesterday, as our magnetic field weakens, got a gut feeling that it allows things in. It suddenly becomes a doorway. So, and I make it on Friday on this one because I want to get into this because this tilt, this is what I think is it's inevitable. And I think we're on the doorstep. And then although we have estimates, we don't know for sure. But all the evidence is pointing that it ain't like 1,000 years away. It's much sooner than that. Okay. And then we're going to talk about, the hollow earth. Shit, now we think that they really may have a hollow earth. So it's just interesting. I hadn't really given it much thought until, our discussion yesterday that it would make sense that if you have, for instance, a weakening of the magnetic shield, because I think that it's just my hypothesis, is throwing it out there, that the soul is directly connected to magnetic forces. Each of us send out an electrical voltage. And within that, it has the dipoles that come along with it. So what if the magnetic field has a direct impact of souls departing, souls coming in? And if that shield is down, I'm just throwing it out there. Kat, how are you doing? Haven't seen you. Russell Targ, remote viewing program. Yeah, and Max Vision has his as well. Um, well, I'm going to go back and check out what's going on in the chat room. So anyway, hey Miriam, Soul is software. Yeah. I mean, I'm just Rick says it is his birthday tomorrow. Well, happy birthday. Well, young man, good to see you. So anyway, skies above, what's up? Good to see you. So they're building the cities. Okay. And then you got to think about this, folks. If they're stocking those cities, that means they're taking food from us. They're taking fresh water from us. They're taking valuable resources from us and hoarding it for them. That totally sucks. That's all I got to say. Totally. So, uh, what's the? I don't know. Why haven't we gotten to the center of the earth? I guess you have to go through hell first. I don't know. Fine. Maybe we just don't have that technology either. I don't know. How can they tell us that it's 12,500 miles to the center of the earth? I don't know. I guess that's what, because of the circumference? All right. Um, Greed is having plenty of wanting more. Yeah, ain't that the truth? But I'm just talking for a friend. It's like, well, something has to be supplying that. Wouldn't that make sense then if they're taking our food, our water, and making less of it? Well, that would make the prices go higher, right? And we know that they have, for the last 10 years, been destroying food processing plants, anything to do with food in that whole distribution channel. Hmm, I smell a rat, a big, fat rat. All right, folks. These guys said they have been for a very long time. Yeah, yeah. Hey, Susie Q, good to see you, darling. So, what can you say? I guess that's why they made no, I'll keep my mouth shut on that one. But it was a good thought, good great idea, I can tell you. I thought it was funny. The ghost cities of China. Yeah. No one stopped and thought, well, with all these missing people supposedly, what if they're not really missing? What if they've just gone underground? China has the resources to do that, just like Russia, just like us. I don't know. What can we say? Conspiracy. Life's a conspiracy, isn't it? All right, see you tomorrow with Mike and Cindy. And yeah, we're so thick into this. I mean, it's like, yeah, you can't keep your pants from not getting wet now. I mean, it's just that deep. That's all I can say. But in the meantime, that's why I enjoy meeting, with we get to meet when we do here. It's fun, and it diverts our intellect to a higher realm. Some would say, really? Yeah. All right. Much love, everyone. See y'all tomorrow. So much appreciate all of you, and have yourselves a fabulous day. Make sure, I think Nina has her show, her hump days, to check that out. All the rest of you, appreciate it. See you tomorrow. All right.